All right. Okay. So we're now recording. So again, thank you all very much for coming in today. We have a short agenda. We have one item. Ms. Bianca Cole has come to us to talk about inclusion resources in Texas, and is going to give us an overview about some of those resources. A couple of reminders before Mrs. Cole starts off. The live chat is disabled today. If you have questions, please feel free to put them in the Q&A section, and we will certainly look at those questions after the webinar, and we'll get you the answers we can, or as soon as we can. Also, as a reminder, this recording will be available on the website in a couple of days. So that's our housekeeping for the beginning of the webinar. And so, Ms. Cole, it's all yours.
Thank you so much, Derek. Welcome to today's session on the Inclusion in Texas Network, a statewide technical assistance network. I'm Bianca Cole. I'm an Inclusion in Texas grant coordinator at the Education Service Center Region 20. Prior to this role, I served as a special education teacher, administrator, consultant, and Inclusion in Texas project manager. I'm joined today by Liz Barraza, the TEA Technical Special Education Strategic Integration Specialist for the Inclusion in Texas Network. While we spend our time together today, we will introduce or reorient you to the Inclusion in Texas Network, examine the resources created by the Inclusion in Texas collaboration with the Texas Education Agency. Inclusion in Texas Network is an IDEA-B funded grant to provide technical assistance to Texas schools around inclusion. In Texas, we define inclusion as a mindset that promotes practices, actions, responsibilities, and learning environments a school community provides to foster equitable access for students receiving special education services. These intentional practices lead to high-quality education and engagement in both academic and non-academic activities for all students. This belief ensures that specially designed learning is based on individual student strengths, needs, and abilities. The mission of the Inclusion in Texas Network is to promote a statewide culture of high expectations for students with disabilities and significantly improve academic and functional outcomes for students served by special education. The network assists LEAs in building a capacity to develop and appropriately implement instructional programs that provide meaningful access to inclusive environments, grade level standards where appropriate. The Inclusion in Texas website includes TEA vetted guidance documents, supports for accessibility, assistive technology or AT, supports for students with disabilities in Tier 1 educational settings, and online professional learning for educators and other stakeholders. Today, as we walk through this information, I encourage you to walk through the resources with me by following along on the website. You can follow along at inclusionintexas.org. Take a moment to navigate to the Inclusion in Texas website. Once you reach the website, you'll know you're in the right place you'll notice a Math for All pop-up advertisement for a free hybrid session we'll be offering later this summer. These are 6 areas covered by the work of the Inclusion in Texas Network: resources, inclusive practices in reading, inclusive practices in math, Tier 1 supports, assistive technology, and early childhood special education, ECSE. Take a moment to look at the supports under each one of these title boxes. We'll go into each area in more detail. We'll navigate each of these areas utilizing our Inclusion in Texas Network page. We'll begin with state guidance documents, including specially designed instruction, guidelines for co-teaching, working with paraprofessionals, and UDL implementation. From the home screen of the Inclusion in Texas website, you'll notice the top menu bar. On the far right-hand side, you'll see resources. When you hover over each one of these title areas, you'll notice a navigation bar will populate below. We'll begin today by navigating to the far right-hand side resources and the first drop-down option, state guidance document. Inclusion in Texas resources include the Enhanced Specially Designed Instruction SDI, a resource for teachers document, and its aligned field user guide. SDI is changes to the content, methodology, or delivery of instruction students receive when they are eligible for special education support services. The SDI is tailored specifically to address the impact of disability has on a student's learning. It is designed to ensure access of the child to general education curriculum and enable the child to meet individual education program IEP annual goals. This first document, Specially Designed Instruction, a resource for teachers, is a longer, more detailed document that outlines implementation of SDI and provides student scenarios as guidance examples for teachers on how SDI relates to specific student impact. Specially designed instruction is changes to the content, methodology, or delivery of instruction for students that are eligible for special education services. This document features many graphics and examples that might be helpful to teachers. I'll scroll through the document quickly to highlight the key components for you. There's an overview of what specially designed instruction is and what it is not. There is a section that covers what specially designed instruction in the IEP looks like and what should be included. There's a section outlining the considerations and flowchart for implementing specially designed instruction in a classroom. And there's examples of how to implement specially designed instruction, outlining the content, research-based methodology, and how instruction can be delivered. There are specific student examples that align with state standards and multiple grade levels, and also consider students that have a variety of impact of disability. Towards the middle of the document, you'll notice that there are some high-yield instructional strategies for specially designed instruction. Within those high-yield instructional strategies, you'll have an alignment of what is SDI and what do those instructional strategies look like as they accompany the specially designed instruction. We also consider instructional alignment, accommodations, and where appropriate, modifications. As we move towards the end of the document, there'll be considerations for lesson planning, as well as accommodation and modification integration into that lesson plan. At the very end of the document, you'll see frequently asked questions. Navigating into the specially designed instruction field user guide. This document is a smaller, more streamlined version of the content. This field user guide is a reference for teachers and other professionals to easily navigate a synopsis of the content represented in the more visual format. This document can be described as the cliff notes of the specially designed resource document. As you navigate through this document, you'll notice that there are more visuals present, and we've streamlined the content to the nitty-gritty need-to-know information. All of the content in this field user guide is visually represented and aligns directly with the specially designed instruction resource for teachers document. There's considerations for both general education and special education teachers throughout. This includes a section on specially designed instruction progress monitoring and instruction, as well as resources at the end of the document. The next set of documents that we'll look at, we'll scroll down past UDL and start with guidelines for co-teaching in Texas. Special education must provide a continuum of services to support placement of students with disabilities. Co-teaching is one option that allows general and special educators to support individual students with disabilities in their least restrictive environment. Go ahead and navigate to each of these documents with me. We'll begin with the guidelines for co-teaching in Texas. The guidelines for co-teaching in Texas helps districts and schools establish a common understanding of co-teaching fundamentals from the conceptualization to implementation and evaluation. It explains essential components of effective co-teaching practices and programs. The document itself is divided into sections for administrators and teachers. The administrator section, beginning on page 18, provides information on starting or supporting programs from the district level. This section includes information on how to support and properly develop, train, and evaluate co-teachers. On page 26, the document provides insights on supporting co-teaching on campuses. This includes pairing and supporting teaching teams, creating master schedules, and utilizing paraprofessionals in co-taught settings. The guidelines for teachers helps establish co-teaching relationships as well as planning for instruction and identifying individual student needs. The beginning of this document also outlines each of the co-teaching models and how to implement those within instructional practices. Let's navigate together to the guidelines for co-teaching in Texas Field User Guide. The co-teaching Field User Guide has a quick at-a-glance section for each of the co-teaching approaches. It includes 4 sample lesson plans, which cover various subject areas and span elementary and secondary levels. The sample lesson shows how the different co-teaching approaches can be used flexibly when designing instruction and focuses on how instruction is delivered. You'll see on your screen sample co-teaching lesson plans. Each of these lesson plans are TEAC aligned and take into consideration the role of the general education teacher and the special education teacher as they implement both general instruction and specially designed instruction. Let's navigate together to the paraprofessionals documents. We'll begin with working with paraprofessionals. Another important component to supporting students with disabilities is utilizing paraprofessionals. The Working with Paraprofessionals resource for educators of students with disabilities assists with appropriate collaboration with paraprofessionals. The information addresses both general and special education settings. This document can serve as a starting point to spark conversations on a campus or within a district to continue to support open communication and planning. Page 8, if you'll navigate with me to page 8, we'll take a look. At tables that compare appropriate activities for individuals in designated roles. The roles and responsibilities of paraprofessional will be very fluid and will vary across situations. This is not meant to be an exhaustive list, nor is it meant to be representative of what must be part of a job description. Navigate with me back to our resources guide, and let's go together into the Working with Paraprofessionals Field User Guide. This Field User Guide contains a synthesis version of the content of the resource document and includes additional information on paraprofessionals working in a virtual setting. Let's navigate together back up to the second document pairing on this page. Again, we are on the Inclusion in Texas website, inclusionintexas.org. We have navigated to resource and then down to state guidance documents. The second companion resources that you'll see are UDL implementation guides for educators in Texas. Universal Design for Learning, UDL, is a framework that offers an approach to designing a learning environment that considers the wide range of learner variability. Let's navigate together into the UDL implementation guide for educators in Texas. The first resource, UDL implementation guide for educators in Texas, includes a rubric, tools, and resources, as well as discussion prompts and tips for educators to use in the implementation of Universal Design for Learning, UDL. This guide can be used by individual educators, including general and special educators and paraprofessionals, to reflect on UDL implementation. Instructional coaches can use the rubric to scaffold the fidelity of classroom implementation. Teams of educators can collaborate and identify how to refine their skills at their current level or stretch and progress into the next level. The rubric can also be used to compile a snapshot of classroom implementation. It can also be used to reflect on school-wide progress and needs for professional development. Let's navigate together to the UDL Implementation Guide for Educators in Texas Companion Guide. This second document is the UDL Companion Guide. It provides examples of how to navigate the UDL Classroom Implementation Rubric. A variety of content areas and grade levels are provided. Educators are encouraged to use these tools to reflect on their own thought process as they design accessible learning environments for all students. We have now navigated through our state guidance documents of specially designed instruction, co-teaching supports, working with paraprofessionals, and Universal Design for Learning. Our next topic will be online professional development. Asynchronous professional development is another free support provided by TEA and the Inclusion in Texas Network. The 5 network-supported Universal Design for Learning UDL modules can be found on TEA Learn and provide educators with knowledge on the UDL framework and principles. These professional development series award CPE directly through TEA Learn. The Accessibility and Specialization Tool page describes aids and resources that align with accommodations that may be included in some individual education programs, IEPs, Section 504 plans, and/or linguistic accommodations for English learners. It's not an exhaustive list of accommodations or support tools. It's simply a list of high leverage tools. It's intended to be used as a reference for educators and families. Let's navigate together to the accessibility and specialization tools. Go ahead and navigate back to the Inclusion in Texas website, inclusionintexas.org. Under the Resources tab on the far right side of your screen, the third tab that you'll see down is Accessibility and Specialization Tools. Once you click on that page, each of the accessibility and specialization tools has been categorized by the type of tool and how it might be used. Each of these links are clickable and will take you to resources that can provide those specific types of tools. The most recent addition to the Inclusion in Texas resources are the T-Test companion documents. These 3 documents focus on inclusion, early childhood special education, and student behavior management. These documents are intended to assist local education agencies, LEA, administrators with information and evidence to support performance evaluations for teachers of students with disabilities served in inclusive settings. These documents are useful at any stage of the approval process and are not required component of T-Test, the state recommended appraisal system. Let's navigate to these documents together. Again, on the inclusionintexas.org webpage, when you navigate to resources, you'll see a section that says Instructional Leadership Tools in the drop-down menu. When you click that resource, it will populate the T-Test 1-page overview that gives a quick synopsis of how this document and these resources can be used, and then free downloadable PDFs of the instructional leadership tool for inclusion, early childhood, special education, and behavior. Inclusive practices in reading includes overview content, content research, resources to support students with dyslexia, and foundational reading materials for struggling readers. Let's navigate together to our Inclusive Practices in Reading resources. At the top of your inclusionintexas.org website, select Inclusive Practices in Reading. This landing page will provide information on inclusive services and free training available on TEA Learn, as well as foundational reading sets. This video located here explains the purpose and use of these lesson sets. We're going to take a moment and watch this video together.
Welcome to the Foundational Reading Lesson Set Overview. My name is Carol Weiland. I am one of the project managers for the Inclusion in Texas Network. These lessons were designed by Dr. Devin Kearns and his colleague, Marcia Herrera. The Texas Foundational Reading Lessons were designed to provide Texas teachers with a comprehensive set of lesson materials to implement effective beginning reading instruction and intervention. I am excited to introduce you to these lessons and explain how to use them. Reading instruction includes 2 major categories: word recognition, and comprehension. In beginning reading instruction, the foundational reading skills of phonological awareness, decoding, and sight word recognition must be a major focus of instructional time. A lack of mastery in these foundational reading skills is also a common reason students fall behind and therefore need intervention. These lesson sets were designed to be used for first grade beginning reading instruction and intervention for students in second and third grades. There are 6 lesson sets: phonological awareness, sound spelling, phonograms, phonics activities, high frequency words, and generalizing skills. Each lesson set provides an instructional routine that teachers will use over and over again, just with different skills. The lessons were developed for Texas educators, so let's look at which TEKS the lessons address. The lessons address all the word recognition TEKS for first grade. You can see on this slide the TEKS addressed in the phonological awareness lesson. The first grade decoding TEKS are addressed through 4 of the 6 reading lesson sets: sound spelling, phonogram, phonics activities, and high frequency lessons. And the generalizing skills lessons address all the first grade spelling TEKS and 1 of the comprehension response skills TEKS. The lesson sets or instructional routines include step-by-step directions for teachers and include the tenets of explicit instruction. Explicit instruction is a combination of modeling and practice with embedded supports. A complete lesson plan usually includes all 6 routines and should last about 30 minutes. One of the resources included in the foundational reading lesson set is an instructional guide that describes in detail how to develop your lesson plan using the lesson set routine. This is a screenshot of the example lesson plan guide. A blank lesson plan template is included for your use. A scope and sequence is also provided. The lessons build on each other, so it's important to follow the sound spelling scope and sequence and avoid skipping around. For example, the first 5 sound spelling lessons include the sounds at, it, At the end of lesson 5, students will be able to decode at least 13 words. By the end of all the lessons, students will be able to read at least 4,000 decodable words. And all those decodable words are provided for you. Let's look at some of the other material. There are more than 200 image cards for the phonological awareness lesson routine. There are more than 40 spelling cards for use with the sound spelling. We all know there are more than just 26 sounds in the English language. We must teach all the ways a sound can be spelled. There are more than 80 sound spelling included in the foundational reading lesson set. Teachers are provided with a list of all the example words and word parts. There are many words provided for each sound spelling that teachers can choose from for each associated lesson. As students learn sound spellings, they are able to decode more and more words. As I mentioned before, more than 4,000 decodable words are included for teachers to choose from as they design lesson plans. A list of all the example words and the word cards are provided. In addition to decodable words, students need to learn the most common high-frequency words. A high-frequency word list contains the first 500 most frequent words listed in order of frequency. Word cards are also provided for each word. The foundational reading lesson set was designed to help teachers by providing a script as an example of how to teach each skill and includes all the materials needed for a year's worth of foundational reading instruction. It is also intended to be used flexibly to meet the needs of your students. Learning to read is one of the most important skills we will ever learn. I hope you find these materials useful and effective in ensuring all your students have a strong foundation in learning to read. Welcome to the foundation.
Right. Navigate with me back to the top of the page And let's discover the rest of our inclusive practices in reading resources. When you hover over inclusive practices in reading, the first tab here will direct you back to the page that we're on. The first resource tab contains information on the asynchronous literacy for all training available on TEA Learn. This course is self-paced and 6 CPEs are awarded via TEA Learn when the course and summative assessment are successfully completed. Literacy for All, Designing Inclusive Literacy Learning Environments, is designed to help educators understand the importance of teaching students who struggle to read on grade level in grades 4 through 12, foundational reading skills. You will learn about the science of teaching reading, including an overview of what skills need to be mastered to become a proficient reader. When the brain learns to read, the characteristics of dyslexia and dysgraphia, how a student's learning abilities associated with reading can impact a student's ability to learn how to read, and what instruction and accommodations can remove barriers for learning. In addition to the current training available through TEA Learn, the same training is available as a synchronous hybrid session. These hybrid sessions are facilitated by a reading expert, and participants can choose to participate in person or via Zoom. This training is offered multiple times each school year, and there will be 3 offerings during the 23-24 school year. The second tab, when we navigate through, contains research. This covers the overall components of reading instruction. The final tab provides instructional resources, lesson sets for reading, and we've provided a convenient link to our state dyslexia resources as well. Let's navigate together to inclusive practices in math. Inclusive practices in mathematics includes an overview content, current research, TEKS, vertical alignment supports, and foundational materials. Across our menu bar, our second option is inclusive practices in math. The first resource contains information on the asynchronous Math for All training available on TEA Learn. Participants will receive 6 credits for the course with successful completion of the summative assessment. Math for All, Designing Inclusive Mathematics Learning Environments, Whole Number Addition and Subtraction, kindergarten through grade 3, is designed to help educators build capacity in understanding how specific disabilities impact students' learning of mathematics. On July 13th and 14th, Sarah King from the University of Texas will lead the Math for All session at Region 8 in Pittsburgh, Texas, in person and via Zoom. Participants will receive 9 CPE credits for this hybrid session. You'll see when you navigate to inclusionintexas.org, a flyer will pop up immediately that contains the information for registering and attending Math for All as a hybrid session this summer. The second section of this page covers the CPA approach, concrete, pictorial, and abstract. The CPA approach is part of the vertical alignment that captures a progressive approach to install in students the comprehensive aspects of mathematics. Teaching math using the CPA progression supports the TEKS readiness and supporting standards, which are evaluated on the STAR assessment. For students to understand and apply math, it is important that they are able to connect a strong foundational vocabulary to this progressive approach. The instructional routines for mathematics intervention materials contain 23 free modules that are focused on different mathematics content that are designed for grades 2 through 8. These modules feature step-by-step routines for explicit teaching of the mathematics content, vocabulary cards with visuals that can be easily displayed in the classroom, problem sets with greater than 50 ready-to-use problems for each module. This video provides an overview of the instructional routines for mathematics intervention and is available on the website. We'll watch a portion of this video together.
Welcome to this overview of the instructional routines for mathematics intervention. My name is Sarah Paul from the University of Texas at Austin, and I'll guide you through the materials that I've created along with my colleagues here. Now, in it, there may be a student or students who identify difficulties and not for specified. There may be also students who experience mathematics difficulty without a disability diagnosis. Regardless, these two groups of students often require mathematics intervention above and beyond the general education mathematics instruction. If you have students who need mathematics intervention, you could use the instructional routines. Now, for students who need mathematics intervention, we designed 23 different modules. Each module is focused on specific mathematics content, and each module contains 3 components: step-by-step routines, problem sets, and now here are the topics covered in the first 12 modules, and the grade level teach that the modules address. Look at module 1. It covers addition of whole numbers, and it addresses teach in grades 2, 3, 4, 5, and 7. And then here are the modules that teach addressed by modules 13 through 23. Now, each of these 23 modules includes several different step-by-step routines. We designed these routines by following the tenets of instruction. Explicit instruction is modeling and practice. The instructional routines focus on the modeling and support, and then you engage your students in guided practice and independent practice by using the problem set. We also designed these routines by including multiple mathematical representations. We often think of mathematics as the abstract, that is, with numbers. The routines we provided with concrete examples, very hands-on tools, and there will be pictorialism, draw pictures, virtual manipulation. It will be up to you to decide how often you model and practice with these multiple representations. So here.
All right, we're going to move to the next section of our resource overview. If you will navigate together with me to the top of the page, we'll go to our main menu bar again. And this time we are going to select ECSE, Early Childhood Special Education. Early childhood special education is considered and included in all Inclusion in Texas materials. This tab provides information unique to early childhood learning environments. Early childhood special education is defined as students aged 3 to 5 having access to meaningful learning opportunities with individualized accommodations and supports for students to learn alongside non-disabled peers. This includes providing supports for adults working with the students across many roles. This page also includes state, national, and institutional resources to support the delivery of services. These resources can also serve to increase administrator capacity to support these unique programs, regardless of previous experience. Let's navigate together to the next section of resources found on the Inclusion in Texas webpage. We're going to navigate to Tier 1 supports. We have developed accommodation companion guides and specially designed instruction field user guides to support each HQIM high-quality instructional materials in order to ensure that all students can be supported through implementation of HQIM with differentiated support. Let's travel together to the Accommodation Companion Guides page. Student support committees consider whether changes in presentation, response, setting, timing, or scheduling are required for students to access the general curriculum. Support committees consider data on the impact of students' disabilities or language acquisition, their strengths, and their needs. While each need is different, some accommodations can be leveraged more frequently and in more ways than others. The accommodations included in these accommodation companion guides are not meant to be an exhaustive list. The examples listed are intended to be high leverage tools that align with supports frequently found in existing student plans. The accommodation companion guides are intended to be a bridge between existing student support plans and the support features available within the HQIM materials, and are quick reference documents that can be used by both general and special education teachers to identify some of the support options within each content platform. While few of them are more utilized supports than outlined, they're not representative of all supports that are available. On the column on the left of each document lists frequently used accommodation terminology. The column on the right identifies the platform tool that can be used to provide the accommodation. The middle column serves as a broad description linking general accommodation terms to the specific content platform functions. At the bottom of the document is a link to the Inclusion in Texas website where you can find additional resources. This allows teachers to quickly and easily align platform functions to previously identified student needs. The chart layout also allows educators to identify a content platform function that allows for greater access and/or progress for an individual student. The chart can also be read from right to left to identify terminology that is understandable in a support document to individuals not utilizing the TEA HQIM materials. In addition, an additional unintended impact of these documents is how to drive educators and students to the various locations that supports can be addressed, implemented, or personalized, depending on the specific content platform. This will allow for improved student access and for learning experiences to be as unique as the student. Specially designed instruction is changes to the content methodology or delivery of instruction for students as they receive special education support services. SDI is tailored specifically to address the impact a student's disability has on their learning. It's designed to ensure access of the child to the general education curriculum and enable the child to meet individual education program IEP goals. Admission review and dismissal ARD committees consider this data as they progress through decision making. Let's travel together to the Inclusion in Texas webpage, navigate over to Tier 1 supports, and select specially designed instruction field user guides. These field user guides are created for each of the HQIM materials provided by TEA. The field user guides incorporate both specially designed instruction and the embedded tools and strategies contained in the high-quality instructional materials. The HQIM and SDI field user guides are intended to be a bridge between existing student support plans and the instructional content available within the HQIMs. Each section of the document provides ways to connect high-quality instructional materials to student plans and leverage the tools found within the HQIM. Each document contains purpose of this guide, specially designed instruction, and considerations for the program, curriculum development considerations, an overview of specially designed instruction utilizing sample student data, implementation of developing IEP supports utilizing the HQIM content, special considerations for students who require modifications, evidence-based practices, and side-by-side examples. The last section here will provide accommodations, modifications, differentiation, language, and specialized supports within the program itself. Each document provides multiple ways to approach and plan for the provision of SDI and presents multiple lenses through which readers can examine the connections between the tools and the content in the HQIMs. The components of SDI are also embedded within. Each section of the document provides ways to connect the HQIM instructional materials to the tools found within the document. Let's navigate together on the main inclusionintexas.org landing page to assistive technology, or AT. Assistive technology enables students with disabilities to access the curriculum, increase independence, and participate actively in education and life activities. AT does not always mean the use of an electronic device. It also includes low-tech items, such as a pencil grip or timer. We encourage you to explore the resources you need to successfully include technology devices and services into your students' plans at school. Well, let's navigate together to the Assistive Technology, or AT, state resources. The Texas 4-step AT considerations model is a process for our committees to use in the development, review, and revision of every IEP. The use of a model ensures consistency and that AT is equitably considered for all students with disabilities. The Texas 4-step model incorporates practices and AT considerations as described by the Quality Indicators for Assistive Technology, QIAT. Identifying the right tool, a reference list of technology supports for struggling readers, addresses the process for determining appropriate low technology, low tech, and high technology, high tech tools that will assist in acquiring and practicing specific skills needed when learning to read. This resource is not meant to be an AT resource guide. It is a resource tool for professionals, students, and parents working with technology to help mitigate long-standing equity and accessibility gaps in line with the National Education Technology Plan, and to support reading progress for all students. The Inclusion in Texas Network is pleased to announce the continued partnership with the Assistive Technology Industry Association to offer unlimited access to ATIA online courses for all education and support staff serving students across Texas and their families. The code above is for this current year. This partnership will continue during the 23-24 school year, with the new code to be released September 1st. Check the Inclusion in Texas content on this Texas Fed support site in the fall of 2023 for the new code. These 60 to 90-minute online education program includes live and recorded versions by national experts on a variety of topics across the spectrum of the assistive technology, tools, and devices, best practices, and implementation strategies for integrating assistive technology, technology effectively into the home and classroom. Learn more about these free courses on the Inclusion in Texas ATIA web portal. You can access that portal by following the bit.ly code shown on the screen or by scanning the QR code. The Inclusion in Texas network is continuously improving, revising, and creating guidance to address needs from the field. The network will be releasing a revised grading and progress monitoring guidance document, guidance for preschool least restrictive environments, opportunities for stakeholders to participate in communities of practice, micro-learning videos, and assistive technology in Texas, a standalone website for all things assistive technology. Use the QR code or the web address to visit the Inclusion in Texas. You'll find all of the resources reviewed today. In September of 2023, all TEA technical assistance networks will migrate to a common website. The Inclusion in Texas webpage will continue to function, but will redirect you to this common site. Inclusion in Texas would encourage you to review the resources most applicable to your role and work. With these resources and trainings, paraprofessionals, teachers, instructional leaders, and administrators can grow in their understanding and implementation of effective inclusive practices. Please share these with any staff that might benefit from them. These resources have many features that will help with implementation and inclusive practices. Each service center has staff members who are well-versed in these resources and can help with your district's needs. Visit the Inclusion in Texas website for a list or email me directly at bianca.cole@esc20.net and I will connect you to your service center's representative. Additionally, please note that all resources developed by the TEA SPED Technical Assistant Networks are going to be migrated to one central website available in the fall. Once that migration is complete, you will be able to access all materials discussed during today's session on that site. More information to come from TEA regarding the launch of this site. Let's navigate one more time to the Inclusion in Texas website. While we're on this website, I encourage you to take a moment to look through each of the headline tabs and resources. Thank you for joining us today. Please feel free to reach out with any questions to us or your regional education service center inclusion contact. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you, Bianca. That's a wealth of great information, lots and lots of resources. Thank you very much for taking the time to visit with us today and share these things with us. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes today's TEA LEA webinar. As a brief reminder, the meeting has been recorded and it will be available on the TEA website within the next couple of days. And one final thing, due to the 4th of July holiday, our next scheduled meeting is going to take place on July the 13th, 2023. So at this time, we'll go ahead and conclude the meeting. Thank you very much. Have a great afternoon and a great weekend. Bye-bye.